Hello everyone. I welcome you all for today's session on digital system design using Verilog. Lecture 6 on module 2, that's about memory. I'm your friend Madhivas Khanderao, Assistant Professor, Department of ENC, College of Engineering, Ramnagaram. If you're new to my channel and if you're not subscribed to my channel, subscribe to my channel, click on the bell icon for further notification or go to the description for the earlier videos. So in the previous session, we have concentrated on the topic of multi-port memories, and we have seen how the FIFO was used and how the FIFO programs were written with the help of Verilog. In today's session, we'll be covering about dynamic RAM and read-only memories. First, let us see about dynamic RAM. Dynamic RAM is another form of volatile memory that uses a different form of storage cells for storing the data. So dynamic RAM is a volatile in nature. Volatile in nature means it depends upon the power. If a power is removed, the data is lost. So it needs to be refreshed frequently in order to store the data. So the static RAM use storage cells that are similar to that of DLATCH, what we have studied in the previous session there. But in this, in contrast, a storage cell for a dynamic RAM uses a single capacitor and a single transistor as illustrated in the figure. So if you observe, this is the configuration of a DRAM storage cell where it consists of a capacitor, transistor connected to a word line and a bit line here. Okay. So dynamic RAM cells are thus much smaller than the static RAM cells. So we can fit many more of them on a chip, making the cost per bit of a storage lower. So if you observe the circuit diagram of a DRAM, the size of the DRAM is very, very small compared to the SRAM. So when the size is small, we can fit large number of memories on the chip. When large number of memories are stored on the chip, the cost per that particular chip will be very, very less. That's the advantage of using the DRAM. The access time for the DRAM are longer than those of a static RAM, and the complexity of SSI control is greater. So if you observe the second point, what we are just discussing is that what is the disadvantages here? So the disadvantage is that the time taken for the DRAM is longer than that of a SRAM, and the complexity to handle that particular DRAM is a little bit greater. And due to this, there is a trade-off of cost, performance, and the complexity against the memory capacity. So DRAMs are most commonly used as a main memory in the computer system, since they satisfy the need for high capacity with relatively low cost. So if you observe our laptops or system, they are they are making use of a DRAMs because they need high capacity there because of you see the hard disk or the memories, we say it as a capacity of gigabytes. So when it's gigabytes, terabytes, so then the memory has to be more with a dense there, and cost should also be low. So the choice between the SRAM and DRAM depends upon the requirement specification of the user. So depending upon the user requirement only, what the RAM has to be used, that's the static RAM or a dynamic RAM, that will be decided by the user. A DRAM represents a stored 1 or 0 bit in a cell by the presence or absence of charge on the capacitor. So how the DRAM is maintaining the value of 1 and 0 is because of the presence of a charge on the capacitor. So when the transistor is turned off, the capacitor is isolated from the bit line, thus storing the charge on the capacitor. When it is isolated, whatever the charge is there, it will be just maintained there. So to write to the cell, the dynamic RAM control circuit pulls the bit line high or low and turns on the transistor. Okay, so what happens is that in order to perform the write to the cell, the bit line is made high and turning on the word line. Then what happens is that the charge and discharging of the capacitor happens. So due to this, the bit value is maintained there. So to read from the cell, the DRAM control circuit pre-charge the bit line to the intermediate level, then turns on the transistor. So in order to perform the read operation, the bit line is pre-charged and the word line is activated and the transistor is turned on. Okay, in this way, whatever the data is stored in this is get read. So as the charges on the capacitor and the bit line equalizes, the voltage on the bit line either increases slightly or decreases slightly depending on whether the stored charge is charging or discharging. Okay, so the sensor detects and amplifies the change, thus determining the whether the cell has stored 1 or 0. Whatever the sensor is sensing, it determines whether it has stored 1 or 0 there. So this process destroys the stored value in the cell. So the control circuit must then be restored the value by pulling the bit line high or low as appropriate before turning off the transistor. So since it is volatile in nature, the data in this gets destroyed. In order to maintain the data, we have to pull the bit line and then only we have to turn off the transistor there. So the time taken to complete the restoration is added to the exercise. So whatever the time it is taking to maintain the value there, that is added in the excess time. That's the thing why the DRAM is having a longer delay compared to the static time there, making overall the read cycle significantly longer than that of a SRAM. So another property of a DRAM cell is that while the transistor is turned off, the charge leaks from the capacitor. As we know the capacitor property, it gets charged and discharges. And due to this leakage of a current from the transistor, that's the reason why we call it as dynamic RAM. So we say that one as dynamic in nature. So to compensate, the control circuit must read and restore the value in each cell, the DRAM, before the charge decay too much. This process is called as refreshing. In order to maintain the value, the refreshing of the DRAM has to be maintained frequently. And the manufacturer have kept the standard delay of 64 milliseconds for refreshing each cell. And the cells in the DRAM are typically organized in several rectangular arrays called as banks. Okay, so these banks are refreshed one row at a time, each taking a 64 milliseconds of refreshing time. Okay, so as we have just seen in that, it depends upon the manufacturer how they are refreshing it, and the standard rate is 64 milliseconds. Now, since DRAM cannot perform a normal write or a read operation while it is refreshing in a row, the refresh operation must be done between write and read, because when we are performing certain operation, it is not necessary to refresh it. So when read and write operation is being completed or changeover is happening, then the refreshing of the DRAM has to be taken care such that the value whatever is stored is just maintained. So the important thing is to avoid scheduling a refresh when the write or read is required and cannot be deferred. So better way is to avoid refreshing during the write and read operation. So the timing of the DRAM control signal used to be asynchronous, and the management of refreshing was performed by control circuit external to the DRAM. Now, so if you observe the timing diagram of the DRAM, whatever we have the control signal there, it is asynchronous in nature. So the refreshing of the DRAM was happening with the help of an external circuit connected to that particular DRAM. But due to the technological update, we are adding so many hardwares in such a way that it gets refreshed within the chip itself. So the manufacturer changed the synchronous DRAM that uses a register on the input to sample address data and control signal on the clock edge itself. So this is how they are just checking it in the synchronous format. I just say the more number of improvement is happening because of the technological improvement. Okay, like the operation is carried out both at the rising edge as well as falling edge of the clock there. When this is happening, the refreshing of the DRAM is happening very fast, and we are saving the time. So this is the advantage of DRAM there. Now let us see the next important concept of read-only memory. Okay, so read-only memory itself says that it can perform only the read operation. Okay, it means it can read only the stored data. It cannot perform write. So this is useful in case where the data is constant. So there is no need of updating it. For example, if you take a television remote, it is fixed. It is not necessary to update it. Okay, so at the time this ROM is useful there. So, so there are three types of ROMs. One is combinational ROM, programmable ROM, flash memories. So what is this combinational ROM? A simple ROM is a combinational circuit that maps from an input address to a constant data value. So whatever the combinational circuit, it getting the address, if it matches to the address and considers the constant data value, so that particular circuit is called as combinational circuit. ROM. So we could simplify the ROM content in tabular form. So the best way to analyze is that whatever the constant data is there, that has to be stored it in a tabular form, and each table is having a unique address representing that particular data there. Okay, so that particular table has to be truth table, because if you observe any of the combination circuit, if you want to verify, the truth table plays a crucial part. To take AND gate or any basic gates like that, n number of inputs, we have a truth table for that one. So according to the truth table, whatever the combination circuit we design, that will be the unique address that stores the particular value of the function there. So for a complex combinational function with the multiple outputs, it may be better to use ROM to implement the function than a gate-based circuit. Okay, so if you observe the gate-based circuit for analyzing the ROM, it becomes little bit tedious. So better is that we can use the ROM-based design to perform this kind of an operation there. So let us see a simple example of a 7-segment decoder. If you observe here, 7-segment LED is a fixed in nature, which just displays the value from 0 to F. Okay, 0 to 9 decade, and A, B, C, D, E, F for hexadecimal. So it becomes hexadecimal display. And now to represent this, it is making use of 7 bits, that is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And for representing this one, we have 4 address lines. Y means it can access hexadecimal numbers, so it is having 4 address lines of A0, A1, A2, A3. But in this problem, we have added one more input called as blank. Blank means what? Nothing should be displayed. Okay, so design a 7-segment decoder with a blank input for a 7-segment display using the ROM. Okay, thus we need 32 cross 7-bit ROM as shown in the figure. Why 32 bit means because of 5 address lines. Okay, so 0 to 9 is fixed, which is having the constant decimal value there, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 9. 10 to 15 is again fixed, there is a hexadecimal number. Okay, and it is here in this particular column, when we are displaying it, we are just having a dash part here, and blank part is here, where all 16 to 31 bits are having the content as 000. So this is the ROM content table there. Now these are the address which is fixed for the respective constant data. Now for this we need to write the program, and already we have written a 7-segment decoder program there. Okay, where it is having 7 down to 1 for segment, 3 down to 0 for BCD, 1 for blank. Okay, now since blank and BCD are the sensing signals, so at blank and BCD case, blank and BCD, all 5 configurations what we have 0 to 9, the tabular format 0, G is 0 there, 1, BC is 1, like this. Already we have seen it in the first module. And the remaining default case, what we have it as dash as invalid code there. So all the remaining bits. And the last default is blank. Blank means what? Nothing should be displayed. This is the 7-segment program for the decoder for the combinational ROM what we have. Now let us see the another one, programmable ROM. Programmable ROM means what? It can be programmed. Okay, so a ROM in which the content will not change over the lifetime of the product. In simple way, how to program, how the data is stored in that particular memory, and it is maintained throughout its lifespan. and that's why it is called as programmable read-only memory. It is manufactured as a separately packed chip with no content stored in its memory cell. As it is saying, whatever the chip is manufactured, it is not having any data. When there is a memory is empty, we can read any data and store it according to the requirement. So the memory contents are programmed into the cell after the manufacture, either using a special programming device before the chip is assembled into the chip or by a special programming circuit when the chip is in the final system. So what can be the possible way of programming the cells are either before assembling to the circuit, we can program the chip, or after assembling with the final system, we can have a special programming circuit to program that particular chip. So there are a number of forms of programmable ROM. Earlier, they were making use of fusible link to program the memory. When we say fusible link, it was programmable only once. So once the link was fused, it could not be replaced. So programming could have been done only once there. So they were replaced by PROMs that could be erased either with ultraviolet light or with an electrically erasable. So or electrically using a higher than the normal power supply voltage, or we can use electrically erasable programmable read-only memories. We say it as WPROM. So these are the different forms of programmable ROMs what we have. Now the third part of memory what we have is flash memories, where a large number of data are written at a time and deleted. So the most new design use flash memories, which is of form electrically erasable programmable read-only memories. So it is organized so that block of storage can be erased once, followed by programming individual memory locations. And as the concept itself says, flash memory, block of a data can be erased and you can write the data according to the requirement then. So flash memory typically allows a limited number of arrays and programming operation, typically around hundreds or thousands before the device is being wear out. It means that before, whatever the chip is being manufactured, it has given certain number of erasing parameter. That is how many times it can be erased, either hundreds or thousand times. After that, the chip starts degrading it. Okay, so that's the thing. What is the disadvantage of the flash memory? Thus, the flash memories are not suitable replacement for the RAM. There are two kinds of flash memories. One is NOR and another one is NAND flash memories. Referring to the organization of the transistor, they make up the memory cell. So the design of the flash memory is either with the help of NOR flash or NAND flash. So in NOR flash, location can then be written and read in random order. So in NOR flash memory, location can then be written, that is one per array, and read an arbitrary number of times in random order. So whatever the erasing is happening in the NOR memory, and then whatever the data you are storing it, you can read it any number of times till it gets weared off. So the IC has similar address, data and control signals to that of a SRAM itself, and can read the data with comparable access time, making it suitable for the use as a program memory for an embedded processor, for storing the configuration parameter to be used to control the system operation, and for storing the configuration information for FPGAs. So where we are using all this thing is that wherever the embedded processors are used, we can use this kind of a RAM, or where the FPGAs are used, we can perform this particular NOR or flash operation there. Okay. So that's the thing what we'll be having in the NOR. But in NAND flash memory, on the other hand, locations are written and read one page at a time. So if you observe that one location in the NOR can be written, but here one page can be erased or written at a time. Here typically the size has been fixed to a 2 kilobytes. Means one page is equal to 2 kilobytes. So read access to a given location would require reading the page containing the location, followed by selecting the required data, taking several microseconds. So when you want to read the entire page, it requires at a time to read the data stored in that particular memory of a page. So if all the locations in the page are required, however, sequential reading is much faster comparable in time to that of SRAM. So when you want to read the entire page, sequential reading is very, very fast when compared to the SRAM. So erasing a block and writing a page of data are significantly lower than that of a SRAM. So that's the advantage of a NAND flash memory, where we can erase the block of memory or write the block of data into the page very fast. It takes lesser time compared to that of SRAM. So the advantage of NAND flash is that density of storage cell is greater than that of NOR flash. So large number can be stored when you compare to the NOR flash memory. Thus the NAND flash chips are better suited to application in which large amount of data must be stored cheaply. So wherever the large amount of data must be stored, there it is used. So one of the largest application of NAND flash memory is in memory cards for consumer device such as digital camera. So examples are digital camera. They are also used in USB memory sticks for general purpose computer nowadays. Okay. If you have any questions, go to the comment section, write down the question, I'll reply to your question. If you like my video, subscribe to my channel and share with your friends. If you like my video, click on the bell icon for further notification. Thank you.